We're now in the fourth Perek of Shmuel Aleph. And in this Perek, we have a continuation of what happened in last Perek. What's happening with Shmuel? We've got a celebrity amongst us. We have the Nevuah of Shmuel, and it goes to L'chol Yisrael. Now, what would happen when Shmuel, the Gadol Hador, the Navi, is giving over his words to Yisrael? There should be a sentence or two about tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah. No. We just have Vayetzi Yisrael Akrat Plishtim. The Bnei Yisrael are going out to fight a war with Plishtim. Perhaps they're emboldened. Perhaps they're thinking, we have Hashem on our side because we've got a Shmuel. But it doesn't seem like there is anything but a surface level acceptance of Shmuel, and they go to fight against Plishtim, and they are on Even HaEzer, maybe Ezra, help from Hashem. They're hopeful. They think that that's what's going to happen, and the Plishtim are in a camp in Afek, and the Plishtim go out to the Bnei Yisrael, and they fight in a war, and they kill 4,000 men. And when the Bnei Yisrael, when they return to the camp, they don't understand. Vayamru Ziknei Yisrael, and the Zikanim, the elders of Yisrael, said, Lama nagafnu Hashem hayom lifnei haplishtim. Why? What's going on? Why are we losing against the Plishtim? Now, we have an understanding that, remember, Shimshon, he was able to kill a lot of Plishtim, and so they also, they're under the impression that they should be winning. So what do you do when something like that happens? You ask the Urban Tumim, you do more tshuva, you have introspection. But what do they decide to do? They decide, Nekha aleinu mishilo es arum bris Hashem vayavo bekarbeinu v'yashinu mekaf ayvenu. I've got a great idea. Why don't we bring the Aron from Shiloh and let the Aron be the one to help us against our enemies? It's the same line of train of thought. The Aron is not going to help you from your enemies. If the Aron inspires you to do well, then you will be able to be successful against your enemies. There's no intermediary that can do the job that tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah are in need of being done. And so, again, it's a surface level. They're misguided into thinking that would be a good idea because it worked once before. Not a good idea. So they bring the Aron from Shiloh, and who, of course, so they send a message to Shiloh, and who, of course, is the one who's going to bring the Aron? Well, Chofni and Pinchas, who were in charge of the Aron, and they bring it. And remember who Chofni and Pinchas are. They are the sons of Eli. They are the ones that were destined to die, and this is not looking very good. Not only that, what do they do when the Aron comes? All the Bnei Yisrael scream out so loud, Batahoma Aretz, that the land shakes, that there's like an earthquake. Now, again, if they're trying to do what was being asked of them with Yericho, and they're thinking, this is going to be great. Remember what Hashem said? Don't do anything till right when I tell you to. That's when you make a sound. Otherwise, make no sound. Here, again, it's misguided. They're not pulling their weight. They're taking representations of what is right to do, but they're not internalizing the message. You're getting bad news. You dig deeper. You do more. And who are the clear representatives of all the bad, of people who just do whatever they want? Chofni and Pinchas. So this is not going in the right direction. And so this is a disaster waiting to happen. And again, it's not a disaster. Again, no one is trying to purposely go against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it is very clear that if you make up your own rules and you do your own things and you don't follow in the ways that are dictated by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then you're going to have a difficult time being successful. So what happens? Vayhi, again, Vayhi, Lashon Vai, not a very ominous word that we know that things are not going to go well. And so when the Aron Bris Hashem comes to the camp, and all Yisrael, they burst into a great sound, and on their side the earth is shaking. So, but what's happening on the Plishtim side? They hear the noise and they say, "Oh my gosh, why is it that there's such shouting?" And they were afraid because they know, the Hashem has come into the camp. Now, that is a nice way that Goyim could feel, when the Aron comes, Hashem comes. But we're not supposed to think that. We're supposed to know that Hashem is always there. And then they cry, "Oh my gosh, nothing like this ever happened to us before. This is terrible. Who's going to save us from these difficult who's going to save us from the power of Hashem? That Hashem who did what? He hit the Mitzrim. He had all the plagues." And so they said, "No, you have to be very strong. Get strong, you Plishtim people. Otherwise, you're going to be slaves." And so they are really, really strong in what they believe. Perhaps it's reminiscent a little bit about the South, in the Civil War, where the Southern people, while they were outnumbered, but one of the positives that they had was that they knew that this is it. The North had encroached on their territory. They were fighting for their families. They're fighting for their lives, and so they really, really are emboldened and strengthened by the resolve to save their family, and so they fight stronger. And so that's what the Plishtim do. They fight really strong, and their fight is great, and 30,000 foot soldiers of Yisrael fall, and the Aron is taken, and Chofni and Pinchas are killed, and it is just a bloodbath. And so somebody, Vayaratz Ish Binyamin, who is the Ish Binyamin? Many say it's Shaul HaMelech. He comes. Many say that what he did was he actually, some say that it wasn't that the Aron, he took out the Aron from the hands of the Plishtim, and he was able to save it. But irrespective, this Ish Binyamin, who we're going to get to know later, is Shaul, and Shaul comes, and he is, all his clothing are all suggestive of the fact that he has, he's in Torah Kriya, and he has earth on his head, and he is very upset, and he goes to Eli. Now, remember, Eli's an old man. Eli's like 98 years old, and he's sitting on his chair, and he. Yeah, it's everybody's screaming and crying, and Eli is like on shpilkas. He's waiting. He doesn't know what's going to be happening, and he's just waiting for the news, and he wants to know what's happening. And this man comes, Vayishma Eli is called Tzahaka, and Eli hears. Now, why is he hearing everything? He's hearing because he is 98 years old, v'lo yachol leros, and he can no longer see. So he is not able to see what's going on. He can only hear, meaning he's lost his power of the closeness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because Hashem would have told him otherwise. This is what's happening. He was always in the position to be the seer, the knower, and now he's clearly not. And so he's very removed from what's happening. And he's on shpilkas. He doesn't know what's going to happen. And he asks, the man says to Eli very gently, "Hi, Anochi ba min maracha." I came from the battlefield, right? And I was able to flee from there. Min hamaracha nasati hayom. And so he said, "Okay, so tell me, ma haya davar b'ni, like what happened?" And he says, "Nas Yisrael mipnei Plishtim." The Bnei Yisrael, they had to flee against the Plishtim. Gam magifa gedola haysa ba'am, and it was a really bad bloodbath. V'gam shnei banecha mesu, your two sons were killed, Chofni and Pinchas. Va'aron Elokim nilkacha, and they took the Aron. Now, why is he saying it in this order? Because this is the order of when you want to say something harsh, and you go small, small until you get to the worst part. The worst part, but his sons were killed. Isn't that the worst part? No. The worst part was that the Aron was taken. because while he loved his sons, the Aron was in his possession, and that was the Aron. That was more than just his own family. That was him, the essence of the Jewish people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shechina, what an embarrassment and a Chil Hashem. And when he hears about the Aron, not when he hears about his children, because again, he's on a different level. Vayipol me'al hakisei achronis, he falls backwards. Vatishaber mafrakto, and he breaks his neck. Vayamos, and he dies. Kizakin ha'ish v'kabed, because he was very old, and he was weary. V'hu shafat Yisrael arba'im shana. Now remember, who's writing this? Shmuel. Do you think that Shmuel would ever say anything except for no? It wasn't that natural ways that he died. He died because he was a zaken. He had real kavod till the end, and he's kaved, meaning kavod. So he's giving him a level of respect that perhaps circumstance would not necessarily dictate. And he goes immediately into suggesting, look what he did. He was the Shovet Yisrael for Arba'im Shana. He was the Kohen Gadol for 40 years. And he gets one last point, which is bad, but it also highlights who we're talking about, is that the Eshes Pinchas's wife, was going into childbirth, and she's dying in childbirth. And when she hears she went into spontaneous childbirth upon hearing when she heard that the Aron was taken, and that was the worst, that her father-in-law died, the Gadol Hador, and that her husband was dead. And what happens is she immediately goes into birth, but she's dying in childbirth, as many women in those days used to. And the woman who's attending to her says to her, Al tiri, don't worry, kibena yalad, you had a son. Below anta, below shataliba, but that didn't even help. She's not even paying attention to that, because she is just so upset and just really despondent. But tikrala na'ar ikavod, and in her last breath, she names him ikavod, because gala kavod mi'Yisrael, because the kavod, the honor and the glory of Israel, is gone, because they took the Aron. And also, obviously, that her father-in-law, the Gadol Hador, and her husband died. Always in that order. She is not in any way taking the own personal nachas of having a son. That is not going to do it for her. These people were on a higher level, even though they did, her husband perhaps did very bad things, but at the same time, these are people that went in and they took the Aron into the battlefield, which was probably, just putting a target on their back. In addition, she is not getting any comfort from her own personal happiness, because the Aron was taken and the Gadol Hador was dead. Those things are way more important to her. And so she really represents this family. They're godless. It's not just regular, ordinary, or Rishayim. We're talking about real Gedolim here. And I think that Shmuel wants to highlight that, because, don't misunderstand the last part of their lives as being anything but a representative that Hashem judges tzaddikim kechutz ha'ara, like really so fine-tuned. And so it's a lesson to us on what we do. Do we internalize the messages of what it means to have the Aron inside of us? We don't need an Aron to go into a battlefield. We need the Aron inside of us to reign supreme and to show Kedusha. When things go wrong, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to go deeper, do tshuva, tefillah, ask Hashem, take the lesson. Now, there's an Indian that when somebody dies and there's a boy that's born within the year, then it's no longer an Eis Tzara to that family, that there's actually like menucha and bracha. And so what the attendant perhaps was suggesting is that, okay, good news, like there's going to be good to your family. There's no longer this level of vulnerability. But she doesn't care, because it's not the vulnerability that she cares about. She cares about the vulnerability of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shechina. And she says, "Batomer gala kavod mi'Yisrael ki lakach Aron Elokim." You're not going to tell me anything that's going to help me. because right now my eyes are, I'm going up, I'm dying, and the only thing that I can think about is the kavod of Israel and the kavod of Hashem. And oftentimes just that self-sacrifice is a very beautiful thing. We're now in a war, and oftentimes the people, the beautiful soldiers who go in to fight, they're just there, and they go into battle emboldened, but they're doing it for kavod Yisrael and kavod of Hashem. And I think that that's just a beautiful idea just to kind of think about in our own current lives. And we will continue what happened in the next Perek.